Hi, my name is Eoin. I'm a horticultural tutor with the City of Dublin Education Training Board, and today we're going to look at planting seed potato. So today is the 25th of March, and we're in the ideal time frame. General rule of thumb would be put down your potatoes anytime from the 17th of March on, so St. Patrick's Day. Um, Generally, you'd start off with your first earlies. So first earlies can be planted, I suppose, from sometime in mid March up to late March. Your second earlies then you would put anytime from, let's say, start of April up to the middle of April, and then your main crop is ones that you would put down generally anytime after the middle of April. I suppose the main differences with your main crop potatoes, you get a much larger yield generally, and they will be varieties that we're probably most familiar with in the supermarket. So the likes of Roosters, Care Pinks, Mars Piper. And I suppose the beauty of growing the main crop potatoes is that you can leave them in the ground until you actually need them. Where the likes of the first earlies and your second early potatoes, you need to harvest them once they're ready. And you generally get a smaller crop. But again, they are a great one to grow, and especially if you're growing them in tubs, like we have here, if you don't have a huge amount of space. So they are fantastic, I suppose, variety to pick for that. This is just I suppose this is specifically for growing potatoes. Now you absolutely do not need to have one of these. You could use a large tub or anything like that. But I suppose these are handy in that I suppose they have handles. They're easy to maneuver around, but also they have little flaps down the side here. So if you want to harvest your potatoes once they're ready, you can just go in from the bottom and not have to disturb, we'll say, all the top foliage if you don't want to take out all the potatoes at once. So again, I suppose that is a handy one, especially if you are growing main crop. So I suppose what you would generally do when you're starting your potatoes, or maybe a few weeks before you actually plant them, you buy your seed potatoes, is a process known as chitting. So I suppose a handy thing to use is an egg box. You would look at your potato and see how many eyes are on the potato, and the surface with the most eyes, you would leave that facing upwards. So you can just sit it into the egg box like that. Actually, what I'm going to do today is plant 3 different varieties of potato in the one tub, which is a bit unconventional, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. I've not done it before. Again, these ones are already sprouted, so I'm just showing you the process of them. So you would leave them facing up like that. And again, this one is quite well established. We'll see, is there a better one here? That's probably a better one to put in. And so you would leave these on a windowsill, somewhere at a bright position, and this would stimulate the eyes of the potato to send up shoots, and it just gives the potatoes a head start before you put them into the tub. So generally it's a fairly simple process. I have about maybe 10 centimeters of compost in the bottom of this tub already, and with a container like this, you would generally do maybe a hand's width apart when you're planting them. So it's not to, because if you put 5 potatoes into a tub like this, you're probably going to overcrowd it, because you have to think of all the foliage that's going to come up out of these spuds, and it'll be too much, and they'll all be competing against each other. So I'm just going to put 3 in here today. So as I said, 1 of each. So Sharps Express, Rocket, and Duke of York, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to place one, basically just place on its side like that, with the shoot facing up. So roughly a hand's width. So I'm going to go here, and then another hand's width here. So I'm just going to put 3 in there. I could probably put another one in there, but I'm just going to leave it at 3, not to overcrowd. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of cropping I get out of this. So again, I'm going to put roughly the same amount of compost over them as is under them. So I'm just going to place that compost in around. Again, I'm using a general purpose compost. You can get specific vegetable compost, but I don't think there's any need really. I think the general purpose is fine. And again, you can just level that out and leave it. And I suppose, within maybe 4 to 5 weeks, you'll have shoots that will start to come up through the surface. As the stems grow, you will have to build up the compost around the stems to support them. But also, if you don't do that, the some potatoes will produce near the surface, and if they're exposed to the sunlight they start to go green and they're actually poisonous. So it's very important to build up the stems as you go. And again, you'll get a bigger yield, a larger yield of potatoes if you do build it as you go as well. Now obviously with the tubs there's a limit as to how high you can go, so you generally want to maybe just go to the seam here and not really much higher, because again, if you are watering and it's right flush with the compost is flush with the seam here, the water will just run off the side and you won't get the adequate watering. So I guess all that's left to do then is to water the tub. You can be generous with the water initially. It will seep out the sides anyway. And there you go. So by June, early July, you should have a crop of potatoes. And we might revisit these in a later video as well. Okay, thank you.